In the minds of many, the President of the United States is associated with absolute power. Every second person believes that the President can do anything, starting with declaring war and ending with setting fire to the buttons in the Barnaul elevator. But is it true? In the next couple of minutes, we will check everything and the best way to imagine that you became the President of the United States. What's next? Let's say you somehow avoided all the legal tricks, because a foreigner cannot be President of the United States, and even a US citizen must have lived in the country for at least 14 years and be over 35 years old. Let's say you went through the hell of the party's internal elections and the main election session. What does a typical workday look like? The President's daily schedules vary, but they all follow the unwritten 9x5 rule, meaning 9 hours of work 5 days a week is official, of course. Barack Obama, for example, liked to finalize documents and make calls in the evenings. Donald Trump tweets every day and, according to rumors, spends his free time holding a bunch of intelligence briefings and, of course, undermines any emergency situation in the world by undermining the US President in the first rows, and peace and relaxation can be forgotten, as well as freedom, because there are many times more prohibitions for the President than for an ordinary person. Firstly, they are not allowed to eat outside the White House. In case of exceptions, a Secret Service officer should try the food first. Secondly, the President is not allowed to attend children's schools. So many teach them directly in the White House. Thirdly, the President cannot clean his office. Everything from mail to trash should be checked by staff in case something useful is accidentally thrown away. The President of the United States is also prohibited from using commercial airlines, going to cinemas, and other attributes of ordinary life. The Secret Service has the right to explicitly ban the President from doing anything if it somehow threatens his safety, which results in a funny story. Michelle Obama said that windows cannot be opened in the White House. The same applies to cars where family members travel and to technology. US presidents are prohibited from abusing social networks without supervision, and even tweets should be checked by specialists. Donald Trump spits on this rule. But even he is forbidden to block people on Twitter because by law, the president supports freedom of speech. And there are other prohibitions in the White House besides logical knives, weapons, and aerosols. These are suddenly balloons. But George W. Bush once banned broccoli, his son banned jeans, and Dwight Eisenhower is a squirrel. So that presidents have no power over internal laws unless it comes to security. Let's move on to power. Unfortunately, things are even worse here because the President of the United States is not a man with absolute power. There is a clear division of the branches of government in the country, and the President represents the executive branch. That is, his task is to ensure that laws work and are passed, but he cannot create them and cannot even push for their adoption. This right belongs to members of Congress. The President can only offer and cross his fingers, hoping that the Congress will listen. And the Congress, in turn, is elected separately if it has a majority of members of the President's party. There are chances, if not, you can forget about the creation of the law, but even the majority is not a panacea. The system is working fine. For example, there are 52 Republicans and 48 Democrats in the Senate. On paper, everything is great for the Republican president. The law will logically be passed by a majority, but in reality, 60 votes are needed. That is, 8 representatives of the opposite party must agree, which happens only in the case of a good law. So, as president, you can't pass any laws, and Donald Trump is an example of that. It's the same with the budget. As president, you can't just allocate $100 billion to support some kind of robotics. The president only proposes a draft budget, which again goes through a thrashing. The chambers of Congress have a special committee, and everyone who is not lazy to make edits, adjust and torment the draft as though, and then come together and approve a version that suits everyone. That is, again, as president, you can allocate money somewhere only with good reasons and very much depend on how many members of each party there are in each chamber. And even that's not all. The president also cannot choose representatives of the Supreme Court if they are not approved by the Senate. The president cannot interpret laws without this very court. And most importantly, he cannot even declare war, as well as conclude an agreement with another country. All decisions are made collectively and in the order of rigid bureaucracy, the so-called system of counterweights in all its glory. What can the president do? Not much, really. Of course, he can chat with foreign diplomats, receive delegations, and appoint ambassadors. The president can also veto laws, propose laws to members of the Senate. During the war, the president becomes the supreme commander-in-chief and, unless in such a brutal situation, gets close to absolute power. The rest of the time, this person can only sympathize with, because the President of the United States is a man who is bound by a lot of restrictions, who can't do much, and impeachment is always looming on the horizon if something goes wrong, and therefore it's a rather naive idea to dream of them. Thank you for being with us until the end. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any interesting new releases. Your comments are very important to us. Share your thoughts below. See you in the next videos.